Chapter 23. Clara. The door to the palace observation tower slammed shut, leaving Clara and Philip trapped inside. Philip pounded on the door. "She tricked us, Philip," Clara said miserably. "She only wanted the key to take control. I thought she was my friend." Philip shook his head. "She fooled all of us." Suddenly, a massive clamor outside in the courtyard drew their attention. Philip and Clara raced to the observation room balcony. From their vantage point, they could see a legion of evil tin soldiers marching their way straight past the drawbridge guards and onto the bridge leading to the fourth realm. "They're going to attack," Philip realized. That's what Sugar Plum meant by rectifying my mother's mistakes. Clara's eyes grew wide. She's going to destroy Mother Ginger once and for all and take control of all the realms. Just then, the door to the observation room banged open. Guards threw Shiva and Hawthorne unceremoniously to the floor before locking the door again. "Shiva? Hawthorne?" Clara hurried to help the regents to their feet. "Alas, you have been captured as well, my dear?" Shiva asked. "I'm afraid it's all my fault," Clara answered with remorse. "I've let you down. I let my mother down." "There's still time to stop Sugar Plum," Philip insisted. "We need to get out of here." He and Clara took another look out over the balcony, down the dizzy drop to the ground below. It was at least several hundred feet. Short of flying, there was no escape. "It's hopeless." Clara sank to the floor. "How could I have been so blind?" she thought woefully. How could she not have seen Sugar Plum's deception sooner? All she had wanted was to know her mother's final message, but perhaps in doing so, she had been too eager to retrieve the key without asking the right questions, as any inventor should, as her mother had taught her. Had her own selfish desire caused this tragedy? The thought filled Clara with guilt. Clara buried her face in her hands. Then, out of nowhere, her mother's favorite melody began playing. Everyone looked around in confusion before realizing the muffled music was coming from Clara's dress. It was her mother's music box. Clara gently removed the treasure from her pocket and opened it. The gold-framed mirrors glinted inside. "If only there had been a message from you, Mother," Clara thought sadly. "If only you could have told me what you wanted me to know." A ray of sunlight caught one of the mirrors, illuminating Clara's face. She studied her reflection, wishing she could see her mother in it. But it was just her in the mirror. Clara, the same brown eyes looking back at her as they had her whole life. The ones her mother used to say sparkled with a clever mechanic's gleam. "Everything you need is inside." And then she understood. A smile slowly spread across her face. "Everything you need is inside." Clara got to her feet, new determination welling up inside of her. "I've got it," she cried triumphantly. "Everything you need is inside." "But isn't it empty?" Philip asked, confused. "Not quite," Clara said. "It has the mirror. Don't you see, Philip? She was talking about me." Clara realized her mother had left her a message after all. She'd wanted Clara to know that she believed in her, and now Clara had to believe in herself. All Clara's time spent tinkering, her days buried in tools and gears and metal bits. Everything she'd learned from her mother, her lessons, her tricks, her tests, it had all culminated in this. Her mother had invented the engine, which meant Clara could figure out a way to stop it. With a flurry of energy, she tore a piece of fabric off her dress and headed to a nearby telescope. Quickly, she unscrewed the lens. Then she turned to Philip. "I'll need your buttons, I'm afraid." "My buttons?" Philip asked. "Clara, what are you doing?" "Assembling a toolkit," Clara explained. "I know how to stop her. Get me to the engine room, and I can stop Sugar Plum." Hawthorne shook his head. "That's a lovely sentiment, my dear, but your belt, please, Hawthorne." Clara held out her hand expectantly. "And that pin, Shiva." The regent shared a look of uncertainty, but complied. Clara placed the makeshift tools in her improvised fabric pouch and wrapped it shut. "But how are we going to get you out of here?" Philip asked. "There's a way." Clara said resolute. There's always a way. She looked around the observation room. There were telescopes and compasses, charts and astrolabes, and hanging high above them all, a heavy gilded chandelier dangling from a long rope. That's it, Clara breathed. She had an idea. A short while later, the chandelier lay on the ground, the rope coiled up at their feet. Philip had secured the end of the rope to the middle strut of the balcony, while Clara unscrewed a heavy candelabra. She handed it to Philip. Her plan was ready. Shall I? Philip asked. Clara shook her head. Ladies first. I'll be right behind you, Philip promised. Clara tied the other end of the rope to her waist. Then she took a deep breath and swung her legs over the balcony railing. Carefully, she began climbing down the side of the tower, gripping the rope tightly. She tried not to look down, lest her palms grow too sweaty from nerves. Slowly but surely, she made her way to her destination, a banner pole that stuck out from the side of the tower. She steadied herself upon it and cautiously inched out. Once she had reached the end, she balanced precariously and looked back up to Philip. He was holding the long slack of rope. He quickly untied the other end from the balcony rail and attached it to the heavy piece of chandelier as a counterweight. Further back, she instructed Philip. Further. What the devil? Clara! Hawthorne cried from inside the observation room. Shiver shared his horror. My dear, that looks most insecure. Insecure? Insecure? Hawthorne exclaimed. Come back off there, my girl. But Clara only had eyes for Philip. Stop there, she ordered. Are you ready? Ready, Philip nodded nervously. Are you sure about this? It's just the laws of physics, Clara said. And they always work, these laws? Philip asked. Clara glanced down at the courtyard, so very far below. She gulped. Always. As far as I know. Then she shook away her fear. On my mark? Philip nodded. He held the counterweight at the ready. 3. Clara took a deep breath. 2. She thought of her mother. 1. She dropped.